Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Europe is under attack, Paris is burning, and establishments across the continent remain, at best, complacent. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about what's been going on over the last day or two across the world, across the Western world. We talked about what happened in London earlier, which was yesterday. We have talked about what's been going on in Mexico, in Canada, in the United States, in Belgium as well. This time, let's focus on what's been happening in France, neighboring country. And right now, with Emmanuel Macron's government trying to be robust, they are trying to deport extremists, and they are successfully doing some of them. Even if you insult the French flag, you will be in trouble. Something that we don't really have in the United Kingdom. We don't have the establishment being loyal enough to defend our country, to defend our values. Even the French do it. At least they still have that. Despite the government being liberal and globalist, they still at least have a bit of patriotism. They're still proud of their flag. It's not like Germany. But having said that, the streets of Paris once again been witnessing absolute mayhem. But the French police can teach a couple of things to the Metropolitan Police in London, for example, because we have some videos for you guys, the latest coming from Paris today, and things are getting serious, as you guys already know. That's why in the live chat we do have an opinion poll that's going up right now. A lot of you have already voted. I asked you guys, is Europe over? 44% of you have said yes, 55 or now 50, what was it, 45 now, 55% of you have said no. People will wake up. So we'll be checking that live poll throughout the live stream, and of course at the end we'll give you guys the final result. It's almost half and half at this point, but let's go to Paris. The number of videos we have for you guys, it's just going to escalate again one by one. First is the actual march that happened, and then disruptions, and of course the far left and the Islamists that they claim also in Paris, just like in London, it was spontaneous and unplanned, but happened across the world at the same time. Definitely coordinated, definitely funded by dodgy actors, including the state of Qatar, the IRGC in Iran, and George Soros, and many others like them. Very similar scenes to what we've been seeing in London and across the world in general. Now, of course, the escalations in America continues because Joe Biden's federal government, they don't seem too much interested. They put the burden on each state. And depending on what state you're talking about, so obviously some are reacting to it, some are not doing anything about it. In France, of course, things are more centralized, especially when it comes to Paris. The police decided to respond properly and actually police the streets, but now it's up to the rest of the establishment and the French government to do their job, to identify of course the troublemakers who are not supposed to be there, a number of illegal migrants, foreign criminals, and all those who are essentially doing treason because of what they want to do, the plan that they have for France and Europe. Let's go to the next video. Complete disorder, and the reason that the police are reacting like this, I know we've seen these sort of things in France over the last few months, in Germany, in the Netherlands, the police are being robust, but the similarity is, because we finally also saw it in London, right, this week, it's mostly because the establishment finally found an excuse to do something about it, some in the establishment, and some just out of panic. For example, Mark Rowley and the London Metropolitan Police. Because there's the weekly Saturday marches, because they are fully organized and coordinated with the police, and the organizers make sure, because they want to keep doing this, they make sure that they try to basically contain any sort of actual violence or any sort of aggression. Of course, there's still one or two that always happen, but most of the problem with the weekly protests is the intimidation and the threats against the Jews, and of course the chants that are not just against Israel or against the Jewish community, but of course against each country. So if they're in the UK, they chant against the UK. If they're in France, they chant against France. But these sort of so-called unplanned, spontaneous disruptions, they actually gives a good, legitimized reaction to the police and the authorities to actually do a crackdown. And the more they do this, the more they're going to lose the PR battle, because they've been winning it so far every Saturday. Because a lot of people would say, yeah, I don't know if I agree or disagree, but they're just marching. It's a democratic protest. Everything's fine. It's a free society. But now people are going to slowly see their true faces, just like what happened with the BLM movement back in 2020. All those who supported it initially, they saw what was happening with the riots and they said, oh, maybe we shouldn't really support this Marxist organization. Let's go back to Paris. These are the next videos is the escalation between the police and the nutters. It's not really surprising, but in countries like France, unlike the United Kingdom, the police have more powers to use against these people, including tear gas and other things. In London, what we saw for the first time, they actually finally brought out the police horses. Well done. And also the batons came out for the first time, and at least 40 people were arrested at that time, but of course more could be arrested today and tomorrow. We don't know the details in terms of how many people have been arrested in Paris yet. We will wait for the authorities to give us that information. I'll keep you guys posted either tonight or tomorrow. But the disruptions will continue because the excuse that these guys have, which claim to be spontaneous, but of course it's coordinated, is fascinating, because they're doing it because of what happened on Sunday in Rafah, right? Because of the media narrative, it instantly came out to fully blame the IDF. Of course, since Sunday, the truth has already come out. The facts have already come out. The investigation that even the United Nations didn't dispute, or any of the international entities, we discovered it wasn't actually the IDF that caused all that trouble in Rafah on Sunday. They actually did use the tiny missiles that they had, and I think it was 17 kilograms in terms of the size and all that, but the ratio fully focused on the compound that took out 2 of the senior leaders of Hamas. The rest of it was because the Islamists had warehouses and some of the trucks that inside them they had all the weapons and everything else that exploded, and it's now also been proven. But that media narrative from Sunday that instantly said this is basically genocide, Israel did that, and it was such a genocide program that it only took out 45 lives. If they wanted to do that, why not target more people? You see the problem with the whole narrative. But of course, the people who've been coming out, they've been using it as an excuse. They simply want any excuse. Whatever happens in the Middle East, they want to use it to bring down the Western systems. That's the whole point. It's just an excuse to attack us. It's not even just about the Jews or Israel, because this fight is global and they're coming for the rest of us. The enemy is here and is here to hurt us. And who is going to be protecting us? I'm not really sure at this point, unless obviously if you're in France, you might say, well, Macron is doing something about it. Not fully sure, but they are doing some deportations and some arrests, but still better than the UK in terms of the reaction, but still nothing. We've had the upcoming general elections in the UK. We've had already 1 week into the campaigns. The Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, Reform UK, all these parties, none of them have been talking about this problem. Not one of the single parties, any of them, of the mainstream parties, have been talking about the hate marches, the Islamists, the threat of Islamism, and the far left. As an actual official statement or some sort of manifesto program, some sort of pledge. So far, it's only been 1 week, just give them some time. So far, absolutely nothing from the parties that I named. They've been talking about immigration. They've been talking about small boats coming from France. Return the boats, turn the boats around, deport, maybe, potentially, right? Not one single person of these parties, the actual official party leadership, have been talking about what to do with the threat of far left and Islamism that is literally directly threatening us. It's not even they're not even hiding it. It's a virus. Once an idea is created, it's impossible to kill it. Now we're going to send a message to the establishment on Saturday in London, in Westminster, outside Parliament, with a rally organised by Tommy and everybody else. We're going to be there to actually make sure we raise awareness in a very positive way. This is not supposed to be any sort of hate rally or anything like that. We've already been planning things with Tommy and everybody else, because I'll be making a speech and a couple of others. We've already been planning things in terms of the messaging, the positivity, that this is not supposed to be just about being anti things and complaining about things, but actually promote our values, the Western civilization and Western values, Christian values. And that's what we're going to be doing on Saturday, 1st of June, a few days from now, 3 days from now. If you want to join us, either meet us outside Victoria Station from 12 o'clock or 2 p.m. outside Parliament in Parliament Square. Now, going back to this, the rest of the issue that we're currently facing. In the live chat, as I said, we do have a live poll. Let's see if the opinion has changed. It's still relatively half and half. I asked you guys, do you think if Europe is over? As Douglas Murray obviously wrote a book about the death of Europe. 47% have said yes. 53% said no, people will wake up. So technically speaking, while it's half and half, the majority are still more optimistic. And this is what I like to hear. Even if Europe is falling, you must get up and do something about it. Even if it's already dead or fallen, go back and fight for it. Anyway, let's go to some of the reactions from the live chat. Mandy, first super chat, thank you. Gutted that I can't make the 1st of June. I will be with you in spirit. Thank you for keeping up the fight. Never give in, never surrender. Thank you, Mandy. Thanks for your hard work. Stay safe. Thank you very much from Europe. We're going to be focusing on the UK elections, but let's not forget that this channel over the last year or so become more of an international channel and global channel, and anything that we report on are things that we all have in common. Whether we report something in South Africa or Australia or France or Canada or wherever it is, or of course in Israel or here, every story that we report is either something that the media are not reporting, media blackout, like what's been going on, or they have their own spin, or they're just not really interested. But the problem here is that we are now here. Then the new media revolution is here. We are doing it. Of course, TCTV, thanks to your support, we are the largest and the fastest growing channel in the UK in terms of the daily news. We're getting more views than Sky News, Channel 4 News, GB News, all of them. But the reality is that people who get surprised saying, why are we talking about what's going on in France? Why are we talking about what's going on in Brazil or Argentina? It's because everybody else needs to wake up together. And I want to bring people together, because until now, for decades and decades, anybody that was patriotic or nationalist in their countries, philosophically, as a concept, that meant that they are more isolationists. Because back then, in the 19th century, in the 20th century, till mid-20th century, the whole point of being a patriot and being a nationalist was to be an isolationist, to just focus on your own country, your problems. And by the way, we still have to do that. That's part of it anyway. But we do now live in a globalized world, whether you like it or not. And patriots all around the world, whether they're in the Netherlands or in France, now they need to support each other. Doesn't mean we have to become globalists, but we simply need to be each other's voices, whether you're in Canada or the United Kingdom. The whole point of it is that we should come across as the ones leading it, because until now we've been just defensive, counterattack. So while the ultra-liberalism and globalism have been basically running the show, and they've been calling us, well, you're just an isolationist, you're essentially inward-looking, and because of that, we didn't have each other's support. But now we are seeing it on the streets across the whole Western world. People are flying in America, they're flying the Israeli flag alongside the American flag, alongside the Iranian flag. In London, we've seen those flags alongside the Union flag. These sort of stuff is now happening, and we need to start seeing more flags depending on what's going on right now. So right now, as we speak, is the general election in South Africa. And if anything happens, Anything weird happens, tomorrow, for example, hypothetically, if in London there has to be a gathering in support of freedom fighters in South Africa against the ANC and all the other nutters in government, then I would like to see the South African flags alongside the Union flags in London. Because we do have to support each other. Doesn't mean you're going to sell out your country. Put your country first. If you're in the UK, Britannia first. If you're in Israel, of course, Israel first. America first. But we have to do things differently. And that's part of what we plan to do on the 1st of June as well. We're going to send a message to people in this country, the establishment, but across the whole world. Because I believe we're going to have a lot of people and speakers and guests who are going to be coming from other places as well, other countries, to support the British patriotic movement. And we have to do the same if, for example, we have Geert Wilders a few months ago having an election in the Netherlands. Support, send support, show support. You can't just expect your country, for example, to win and then be like, well, the whole world is going to be fine. While France, Germany, and all the other countries are still under liberal globalism, and those establishments, left-wing establishments, the virus will spread again. This is the true pandemic. You have to fix all of them all at once, or at the same time. Anyway. Tia Scott says, that's what I love about this channel and the live chat. I don't feel isolated in my thoughts and beliefs. Thank you very much, Tia. That's the whole point. And that's why I do what I do. Because while this channel was created initially as a more of a obviously British news channel, because it was about Brexit at the time, a few years ago. But now we actually have a worldwide viewership. And the fact that people would like to watch 2CTV from, again, for example, Canada, instead of watching their own media, that tells you a lot. And it's not a good thing. Why should they watch me in London talking about those problems? It should be their own job in the Canadian media establishment, for example, or their own politicians in the Canadian Parliament. But that's not happening. But you need to use this opportunity. And obviously, you guys have been supporting us so much that literally over the last couple of days, we hit 500,000. Look at the number now. 500,000, 504 already. Already 504k. So we're going up, and within the next couple of months, few months, we're going to hit 600,000, and then following that 700,000. We're going to get to 1 million. We're going to show the world how it's done. I guess super chat from Israel saying, hey Maya, huge thanks from Israel. I'll tell you one thing, they can scream, they can shout, we don't care anymore. They want to stop us, come and try. We won't stop until we get our kids, even then we're done. We've got Danielle Sinley saying, I will have my flag up on Saturday at home. I can't get to London. Free 2CTV. That's actually one thing you guys can do if you can't make it to London. Show your support somehow. Send a message. If somehow the likes of the BBC and parliamentarians who are no longer MPs because they all have to stand down now because they have to be candidates again. If they go around the country and they're campaigning and they see all the flags on Saturday, they're going to ask questions. They're going to be like, what's going on? And then someone's going to tell them why all the houses around the country, in the real country, having the flags up on Saturday, the 1st of June. And that's just the beginning of this movement. Barbara says, I can't get to London as I'm my mum's main carer, but would donate money if needed. And thank you so much, Barbara. Of course, your support is already enough. And this is about, as I said, just do something in your local area, even if you just have to fly the flag. I remember when we used to fly the flag. It's not happening anymore, is it? Some people are ashamed, and the rest of it is just people just keep their head down because that's part of the British mentality. Lucy Snowden says, I love this channel. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Are you related to the other Snowden? I wonder. Love is in the air. Brilliant. And we have Jay saying, oh England, the land we love. Oh England, I'm not going to sing it. Blessed from above. My voice is already going. I can't lose my voice considering I'm making a speech on Saturday. That would be very much embarrassing. But yeah, bloody Islamic, but they can't see that England one day will be free from the river from the English Channel to. Yes, we're going to do it from the Channel to the sea. Britannia will be free. Leonard says, thank you from New York. Great job. I am actually very much a massive defender of New York these days, mostly because from the Queens, from the Bronx to Harlem in Manhattan, they're all now supporting Donald J. Trump. It's absolutely funny. The whole thing is funny. The mess that Joe Biden's created is literally turning the cosmopolitan New Yorkers and the black community and all the different communities against the Democrats in favor of Trump. It's funny. It's funny. It's just, I mean, but what are we doing in the UK? What's happening here? We have a choice between Rishi Sunak, Richard Tice, and Keir Starmer, basically, and maybe Ed Davey. Oh dear. Anyway, it's about timing, I guess. Peter Green says the UK leads again. No, in this case, not politically, but yes, in terms of our movement, absolutely. France equals Islamic countries since, to be fair, the French have been resilient. If you go to south of France, the mentality is still very much different to Paris. But people do say that Paris is no longer France anyway. And Paris was already not like London, but it was to an extent an international city. Well, it was an international city, but slightly different to London. London was always an international hub for a long, long time. But Paris still had that element of Frenchness, let's just say. But nowadays, less so, I guess. Matthew says British values and ethics are being undermined and schools no longer teach people what it means to be British. Now, young people are growing up alienated in their own country with no sense of direction. So everything goes back to the education system, the early days education, and of course, parenthood, because the values are already going down. So let's not just blame the establishment in terms of the existing politicians. Let's not just blame mass migration, and let's not just blame the far left that are bringing their ideologies again from mainland Europe, the Marxists. We could have prevented this, just like how the Americans prevented it for a long time in the 20th century in the middle of Cold War, because they were still promoting family values, the American flag, and basic tradition, Christian tradition. All that's going away. In the United Kingdom, we don't have any discipline when it comes to the schools. Now, there are certain independent schools that still have those values, but it's not really a normal thing to do the national anthem, for example. It's not a normal thing to have the Union flag. These things are simple things, but it matters. It does matter. When I went to Israel, Tel Aviv is a cosmopolitan liberal city. And there are a lot of left-wing people there. They still protest, right? But they still fly the Israeli flag. Because whether you're center-left or center-right, you still believe in the flag. The same applied to the Americans, at least until recently. Center-left or center-right, as in normal liberals, moderate liberals in America, and the conservatives that both were flying the American flag. Now the liberals started losing it because they're basically socialists. But it shouldn't be about being this side or that side. Everybody should be proud of their country and the flag. But this has been happening everywhere. I mean, for those who remember, was it about 8 years ago when Angela Merkel was on stage as the Chancellor of Germany, and they were celebrating, and then one of her colleagues was flying the German flag. She literally took the flag away, German flag, threw it away, and gave the EU flag instead. That's how much ashamed she was as Chancellor of her own country because of her own flag was being, but they were flying the flag. It's embarrassing. That's completely embarrassing. And we know some part of the reason why people like Merkel were doing that. Going back to some of the super chats, I missed out so many of them. Apologies. BJ says, thank you, Maya, for the crucial work that you are doing. Fear not, the citizens of the Western world will prevail and fix all the issues. More and more people are waking up. This is a good reminder to go back to the live poll we have in the live chat. Has the result changed, guys? I asked you guys, is Europe over? 46% have said yes. 54% have said no. People will wake up. So the result is still relatively similar. More people are voting now in the live chat. Optimism. There's some positivity because the people who've said no, people will wake up. They're still in the majority, but it's almost half and half, which is a little bit worrying. Super sticker from Martin. Thank you, sir. We also have another one saying, I'll fly my flag. F them. I love England. Absolutely. Barbara's back saying, my flags have been flying for months. I even placed some in my churchyard because they didn't bother. Ashamed of them. That's so bad, isn't it? Well, Barbara Davies is already doing her job and duty to the country, to the kingdom. Everybody else should do the same. Aaron says, Dad has an old sailboat mast and as a flagpole attached to the shed. The flag only comes down when it gets swapped out for a fresh one. Keep it going. Brilliant. That's great, actually. It's nice to hear people in Britain. If you're watching this from abroad, this might not make any sense. But genuinely, it's nice when you hear people in Britain still doing it. The flag thing. Because if you're watching from Denmark, the Danish are still very much proud. You go to the countryside in small towns in Denmark, you see the flag everywhere. Flags literally everywhere. On the trees, on the floor, on the houses, everywhere. America, the same. But you might be surprised if you're watching the same. What's going on in the UK? Do you not fly the flag? Basically not. Of course, the Middle England, people are doing it. And it's nice to hear. It's just nice that, you know, get a reminder that there's still some people who still believe. Peter Green says, I had 3D printed St. George's flags in my window for months. Brilliant. First Evil 100 says, I find it funny, Maya, that the left-wing nutters think that Islam is on their side. But look at Iran. Did they learn anything from this? Will they learn anything after Islam is removed? Or will they just side with them again? Again, how many times have we used the example of Iran in 1979? Considering the Islamists basically used the communists to do the uprising, to do the paramilitary coup, literally armed. The moment they got what they wanted, the next day, they did two things. One, they destroyed the communists. Two, they chanted death to America, despite the CIA actually helping them to get there. The whole thing completely backfired, and you would think the whole world would learn from that. Absolutely not. I mean, first things first, we do not teach that in the education system in the West. They have all in terms of basic documentaries on media, BBC stuff and all that. A lot of people until recently, until we started talking about it, have been literally believing. They believed that 1979 was a popular revolution uprising by the Iranian people because they hated the king and the monarchy. Until recently, that all the documents have come out, finally proved what I've been saying for years, that was not a revolution, that was a paramilitary coup, literally armed men, with no consent from the public, and everybody freaked out because the whole society became liberal secular, and people in Tehran, the capital, were so complacent because they thought, this is never going to change. This is our system. Everything's stable. The same mentality that people have in Western Europe right now. Thinking, of course, France is not going to change. Of course, the UK is not going to change. We have checks and balances. Really? Are you sure about that? Now, they might not do the way they did in 1979 in Iran with full force. But considering the Christians in the Western European side, they're not having enough babies, and another side are having a lot of babies, you just outbreed them. That's how you take over countries now. Because the ideology is there. You just have to teach your kids. This is the issue. Did I miss any? No, that's all of it. But yeah, of course, we'll keep you guys posted on all this, see what's going to happen this weekend in London. I hope, obviously, if you can make it to London, I will see you guys on Saturday, 1st of June. Otherwise, we'll report there. We'll do a live stream. I'll be there too. If you're watching from abroad, we will show you what you're missing out, basically. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you so much. 504,000 subscribers and growing day by day. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media. Back to the live. 104,000 subscribers and growing day by day. I'm Maya